Okay. Here I am with Martin. Let me just pause this video here for a second. So, explain a little bit of why I wanted to put this role up, and why I was so happy and so grateful that Alex took the time out. He was a bit tired after the rolls. This was one of our last rolls here, so he was like, "Yeah, I know you guys want to have a fairly decent roll, so I'll record it for you." As to, this is like what I would consider to be more of a harder role. Now, before I actually get into the role, it's important to note that when people talk about hard rolls, they're generally talking about using a lot of strength, and it seems to be, in my experience, when people say I'm rolling hard, they seem like they just get stuck in half guard. One person maybe like tries to do some bit of a move, the other person tries to pass and they re-guard, then they get a bit of a sweep, and it's that kind of a backwards and forth. In my opinion, that uses a lot of strength on your arms, but it's not very hard as far as like cardiovascular. It's not really hard on your brain. It doesn't require complete presence of mind, and doesn't need you to like completely exclude the external world. Now, for you to get to this stage, me and Martin have been rolling often, like multiple times per week, fairly cruisily, quite often longer rolls, and we've like talked a lot about different techniques and backwards and forwards. So yesterday, he said like I'm going in a couple of days, so we had like a bit of a harder roll the other day. But then we both kind of knew we'd all had our rolls. We were just going to have one last roll where we really we're going to leave it all on the table here. So pay attention to this roll, and I forget exactly. It's about a 6-minute round where we're completely putting all of our energy and presence and focus into prioritizing movement and prioritizing positional dominance. If submissions, we're going to kind of hunt the submissions. We're not really wanting it just to be a backwards and forwards on submissions. We want to kind of mess around with our wrestling and that kind of thing. Now, Martin has been training about 10, 11 years for context, and he's quite good at like no-gi. He doesn't have a wrestling background, but he definitely has a wrestling style of jiu-jitsu, especially that coming up from half guard, never letting the other person get like a dominant position, and really having like solid defense for the subs. My screen just went a little bit black there. So have a look at this whole roll. Let me know what you think in the comments. Because in my opinion, when you have a good training partner and you're getting ready for like a competition, if this be say in no-gi, so like a no-gi competition, you definitely want to be having about 4 to 6 rolls like this every single week. It's going to look a lot faster if you're a younger, more athletic person. I'm obviously 41 at the moment. I weigh about 71 kilos. Martin's probably mid-80s, so he's quite a bit heavier than me, a bit more athletic than me. But we both have the same mindset around rolling to get better for ourselves, and also to be a good training partner for each other. So there's different standards of how you would roll. However, I think this is what I would consider to be like a harder roll, and a good exchange of techniques where we're both pushing each other's cardio and skill knowledge, but also in a safe-ish fashion. You can see it's a safe fashion, because like even though he outweighs me and he's better wrestling than me, and I'm scared of my knees when I wrestle with strangers. You can see I'm wrestling. I'm standing up with Martin here, so I don't consider him to be a stranger. I consider him to be a good friend and a very solid and safe training partner. So without that, let's get into the actual roll. You can see, I think it's very important to like learn how to grip fight and create angles and that sort of stuff. So whenever you've got a training partner that's good, my hips are a little bit too far away from this, then he goes into this quad pod position. And then, see, I've used the crab ride hook to keep him there, and then I try to use the half Nelson to push his head back over to the ground. And then, see, I don't put 2 hooks in. I like sort of hook onto one side, so that then he's forced to kind of roll over. Now I lock onto that far leg, and I start to go for the twister. This is early in the round. My mate Alex is recording. I know he's watching, so I'm like, yes. how fantastic on somebody's last day training with you to catch him in a twister. But look at that. He shakes that leg, that manages to twist the leg that I've got trapped, and he actually escapes there. I was super impressed with that. So yeah, sure, he's on the bottom of side control, but he just got out of one of the most embarrassing subs there is in jiu-jitsu, and rolls through, gets a calf slicer and a toe hold. Well, he doesn't finish them because we're just, he's being a lot nicer to me than I am being to him. I would have twisted him if I could have. He could have toe holded me then, but he didn't. You can see I have a bit of a laugh. I'm like, yeah, I know you could have toe holded me. I actually do want the truck, but you can see that I'm not high enough on that leg to use the truck, so I just decide to come up on top. He uses the leg that I've got trapped to prove to me that he could have come up on top if he wanted to, but he prioritises putting himself into bad spots and then escaping. So he even let me step past and then recovered and tried to re-attack my legs, which I had to address. So I had to step back behind his legs, and then he gets to play guard again. I try a little bit of a crab ride back take, which he's very hip to, and immediately defends. So I'm kind of prioritising top position, because with the weight discrepancy, it's going to suck for me if he gets on top. I try my little rolling Kimura thing. He does a great job of keeping his arm too straight. I keep my elbows tight together, but he's kept his arms even straighter, so I have to give up. And because he's going up into turtle, I'm like, yep, okay, front headlock position, and he's immediately quad potting up again. I try the Kimura immediately. Let's go back to that little scramble again. Where are we there? Yeah, so he's quad potting there, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to try and jump on your back, because if we fall backwards, I'm going to end up in the tiles and the dog carrier. So I'm like, okay, I might just try a Kimura, because that nearly worked for me before. But then you can see immediately that Kimura isn't going to work. So I try the switch out, the wrestler switch, but he's hip too, so he switches on me in the same time that I switch on him. So then top of half guard with a deep knee shield, he's managing to keep me nicely away. You can see I'm holding his wrist there so that he can't easily just grab a Kimura that I have no chance to defend. I'm just keeping my hand on his wrist. He doesn't do anything to defend it, because he's like, I'll just Gramby on through here and see if I can collect one of your legs. But remember that crab ride back take that I wanted before? I try it again, but he defends it before I even start to get the roll going. I love that little push there, ankles away, as you kind of run around to the top when you're doing a loose style passing. It's really nice, especially when you've got a good guard player. They'll tend to let you get to side control-ish north-south positions, and sometimes you can just push their ankles away and get your shoulders in front of their knees. Let's just go rewind this and let this play again. Where are we? Yeah, where are we talking about this guard pass? Yes, see how I'm there. I'm transferred my left hand to his wrist, and then boom, I've got the opposite hands in the wrist. I push the feet away, and I use that to get to my side control position. He immediately comes up on that underhook, and then I use the little arm weave to flatten him back out. He actually taught that in a class just the other day, and I'd forgotten all about it. So we're having a bit of a chuckle about, look, I've caught you with your own move there. Now, this is my favourite of all time submissions. So I'll just stop this here. I hope you can see this arrow. See how, I might just go back a couple of frames. Okay, he's having a bit of a giggle there. See how I'm here. When I get this arm across, there's plenty of different ways of clearing this arm. I got there pretty quick, so we won't talk about this. Just assume that the head arm position is controlled, and the gable grip's gripped underneath there, or whatever grip you've got underneath their head. You've got your forehead on the ground down here. Cool. Now, I just drop my left leg back flat on the ground, so my inside thigh is across his hips. This allows me to flick my foot across his knees without getting put into a half guard position, which isn't the end of the world when you're going for a head arm trunk. However, if the person is bigger and stronger than you, or they're fairly decent with their escapes, you can probably squeeze until the cows come home, but you're going to struggle to get enough pressure in the head arm triangle. So once we go across, we put our right knee onto their hip, and then we come up on the toes of both feet, and then we can really drive some pressure down. I'll go forward a few frames here. See, boom. See how that knee is on the hip? That knee is now immediately going to tell me the instant he tries to punch his hand down and roll away. Because I'll know as soon as he starts to roll away, I can draw this hand back and then scoop up his shoulders, lift his shoulders up off the floor, and then take my left knee, throw that knee under his back, and I get a good opportunity to chase his back. If I just dismounted and then I sprawled flat on the ground, so my stomach and hips and knees were on the floor, then when he rolled away, it'd be too much distance for me to cover to effectively chase his back, especially if he's like athletic. I'm just not going to have a chance to do it. By the time I undo my hands and get up off the ground, he's going to be up in some sort of a turtle position, so I'm most likely going to end up on the ground. That's the number one reason why I say once we have the grip locked up, we can keep our forehead on the ground and we use our toes to get our hips really high. The other reason is if they don't want to roll away from us and they just want to try and get their elbow back in between our two heads, as some really strong people can do when they've got strong lats and they shoulder walk backwards, they can drag this elbow back in. Because this knee's already there, we just punch that knee across to the other side and we just go straight back into mount. And we can have a go at the head arm triangle or an arm bar or something like that again. So that's the two main reasons that I finish head arm triangles with my hips high in the air. The other reason is, let's say he doesn't defend it or he can't defend it because I've got so much pressure on. Because my hips are high, now all I need to do is rewind my right shoulder in a circle so that it's definitely underneath his chin here. Look at him having a little giggle there. He knows this is one of my favourite subs. And then from there, my hips high, I can kind of drive down like a snowplow or bulldozer blade and get right underneath his chin, put tons of pressure into his actual throat, and then my toes, I can use my hips to go around the corner and my forehead to go around the corner, and then I can put all of my body weight and my leg strength and my arm strength into that choke. So if that still isn't enough, what I then do is my knee will come off the hip at this stage and my toes will keep walking around the corner and my chin comes over and into his eye socket. What that does is see how my neck is pushing against his tricep here to tighten up the head arm triangle. Because my chin comes up to his eye socket, it makes me and my neck go high on the lever being his tricep. So my chin is keeping his tricep against my neck, and then I get to push it from near the elbow. So then it makes it so much tighter because of the angle of the lever and because of all my body weight and my strength pushing into that head arm triangle makes it, really tight. However, Martin is quite hip to this because I've spoken to him quite a bit about head arm triangles over the last 6 weeks. So he's having a bit of a giggle here. As soon as I get this locked up and I start to put some head arm triangle pressure on, watch what he does. Boom. He's just like, yeah, look, have a little crack, mate. And boss, he turns away. So I immediately try to chase his back. See, I tried to lift his shoulders there. I'll just go back a second there because I try to lift his shoulders and chase his back. Let's go. Yes, at this point here, this is where I can go, oh, yep, he is trying to escape. So I've let my hands go. My left hand posts on the mat, and then my right hand, you can see how it's let go. It just comes back, scoops the shoulders because I know he's going to turn up. And then once I've done that, I can suck my knee under his shoulders and go for that. But he doesn't turn up. He knows what I want, so he keeps himself square to the ground. That makes me think for a second I've got an armbar. So he reverse hitchhikers his way out, grabs my inner thigh, grabs my thigh, starts to come up. You can watch I have a bit of a battle. I try to push him back down so that I can finish the armbar. But it's just too late. It's too late because he was already onto it. So there's a couple of steps ahead of me on that one. That was quite a nice attack from me and a very nice defense by Martin. So that's real good. I'm not happy with him coming on the top there. You can see I'm like, I really kind of wanted to end up on his back or to get that head arm triangle. So you can see I'm like, having a bit of a grunt and a giggle to myself. From here, we're both kind of aware that we're near the edge of the mat there, but he does a good job of chasing my back and then getting under my chin there while my arm was busy. I'm trying to block the hook. He does a fantastic job of scooping up underneath my chin. You'll see, I think it might be about now, a bit later. See how he gets underneath my chin before he really has the back control. So now I'm forced to otherwise I'm like lying back over on the ground. He gets to come up on top. So for me to come up on top is for me to kind of walk into that bulldog choke. So I tap there, but he's like, just keep going. We're having too much fun and we're both getting a good workout in. So let's just keep going. And that's some of the benefit of having training partners that you can really trust. Whenever they know exactly when you're about to tap. And so like sometimes it's just a mutual agreement. It's like, yeah, you know that you got me. I know that you got me. Sweet. Just accept that in that split second and keep going on, because the position's too fun and the movement is too good. Let's just keep this roll going, baby. So I don't know what the fuck this position is. I'm trying to do some fat man octopus kind of a roll and enter into the legs in some description. Neither of us really know. He's just like, yeah, all right. You just kind of chase my back. I'm going to turtle up. But he's so comfortable at not letting me get to those ribs by either keeping his knees close or his elbows close, that it just, even though he's not even moving a whole lot, he's just making me do a heap of movements, which is something that I consider to be really, hang on, let's pause that there. We'll come back to that for a second. Something that I talk about so much is when we're rolling with people, let's say when there's not much of a points exchange, there's not too much of a, there's no points, there's no advantages, there's no submissions going on. Who is actually losing in, let's just go back to this weird position. Who is actually winning and who is actually losing in this position? It's really, really hard to see. You can't really even see what's going on. He's kind of like attacking some kind of a turtle. I'm sort of attacking his arm there. What the hell is even going on? Let's just look at this and let it play out. In my opinion, the person that is using the least energy is the one that's winning. See, I'm trying to roll through and collect his leg. He's holding it. I tried to fat man octopus roll again. Doesn't really work. He keeps all of his weight on top of me. He makes me roll him all the way to the top because I have to. Then he keeps his ribs protected. So I'm actually working nearly twice as hard as he is in this position. So in my opinion, he's on the bottom, but as far as a jiu-jitsu match is concerned, he's still winning this exchange. Now he turtles up here. Now watch this. I go for a Peruvian necktie. See this? Let me just go. I need to work out how to go frame by frame here. When we're going for a Peruvian necktie, it's not the most high percentage move, but Alex is actually filming this and we've been talking about Peruvian neckties, and I find that it's a great submission to really understand moves like dasas and guillotines, any of your front headlock strangles where we have the head and the arm controlled. What is it that actually creates the strangle? The main thing is something, whether it's a hand, some fingers, two hands, your forearm, whatever thing it is, as long as there's something underneath the chin, then we just want to stop the back from rolling and the head from rolling. We just want to push the hips down and then the head down so that we create the spine to bend around that hand or that forearm. That's how we get a guillotine. So a Peruvian necktie is exactly the same. So my right arm is going underneath his arm, and my left arm is going underneath here. My hands are locked in any way, shape or form underneath his chest. And now all I need to do is step, you can see my right heel's just out there, I just need to step that up close here, so that the really important thing is to get my hamstring over the top of his head. Because if he can keep his spine straight, he can always escape. So watch what I do here. I prioritize getting my left hamstring over his head, boom, and then I sit down and immediately put my left foot over his back so that he can't straighten his back out. So now I just want to curve his spine around the grip of my hands there. He does a great job of using his arms, so you can see I'm having a bit of a laugh there looking back at Alex going, yeah, I did that exactly as I should have done it, but he did a fantastic job of defending, so yep. Fair play, fair play. See, he just denies me the grips, and because I try to get the grips and then I have to sit down to guard, I try to switch out and I can't get the switch, he manages to lock my legs together. So now I'm back to like kind of trying to hold his head and use the frame on the head, or in this case now the arms. I'm trying to get my hips out. See, I'm trying to like put a foot or a shin against his hips so that he's not keeping his hips covering mine. That's why I'm trying to run away and go back up into turtle, blocking the hook from coming in. So he tries to put the other one in, which he does, over my arm, and beautiful back exposure there. Let me just pause that there too. A lot of the time, when people are talking about like back escapes and that sort of thing, see how all I'm really doing there is he's basically got control of my back because he doesn't really control my body or my shoulders. My main goal here is I'll try and get this right elbow down, but I'm just trying to put my upper back on the mat. It's the only thing I can really think of. Like we're working hard here. We've been rolling for, I'm thinking about 5 minutes or so at this time. So at this point, I'm just like, okay, I know I'm going to be sweaty. If I get my back on the ground, at least I know Martin's not on my back. Happy days, and the roll continues. So anytime somebody's trying to get on your back or on your back, if you can get your back on the ground, you know they're not on the back. I know we're getting near the end here, so I'm like, okay, can I get this saddle position? And he's immediately off on the running man escape. Let me just go back a few frames here on this. Because he is defending this before I've even got the position locked up, because I need to get my feet together and my knees squeezed together in this position. So let's play this a little bit. Boom. See, I get my feet together, and now I need to really control. See, I'm scooping up this knee. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I can squeeze, go foot to foot, get that pressure on his upper thigh. I've got his knee line secure. Now I have a good chance at my inside heel hook. And away we go here. But boom, he's immediately, like, look at that far leg. He's off on the running man escape. So I don't get a go at, so I'm not really getting a go at the inside heel hook. And you can see as we go there, let me just go, boom, boom. Yeah, see, I realized that because his far knee was already away, I had to transfer that foot to the other side. I kind of used his foot a bit. Wherever you can, try to hold the toes, because the end of the lever is always going to be the strongest. But see how my foot is kind of stuck underneath his feet there, and my knees aren't really squeezed together, and I'm not really controlling his knee. He takes that split second of an opportunity to clear most of the knee line. And that is why when I try to do the outside heel hook, it doesn't work either. Always watch your rolls back, and then you can start to see exactly what happens there. So like you can really pull on this heel. Yeah, if you're a lot stronger than the person, you might get a heel hook. Probably not going to do much damage. So that's why I'm just kind of like keeping a bit of a false grip over that heel, just to try and stay in the game. But you can see this hand is underneath there. I am trying as best as I can to secure the knee line. What I want to do is roll all the way through and then cross my feet on the outside so that I have an outside ashy, and use that outside ashy to get an outside heel, which would have been sweet. But obviously it's not Martin's first day on the mats. He realizes that it's going to be hard for me to finish this heel hook, so watch what he does. He turns back into me, hits the underhook, and creates like back exposure that I then have to defend. Well, the other way for him to do that was to like use his right leg to clear my elbow, and then do like the truck roll or the berimbolo kind of roll. Both of those things, whether he hits the underhook or does the berimbolo roll, both of them the options create back exposure. So most of the good leg defenses give you back exposure. So that's why a lot of people love leg locks as much as they hate them, because they tie in with the upper body. So let's have a bit of a look here. So watch. See, I'm like working here, and he's sitting his hips back on so that I've got no chance to put pressure. And you can see that arm there, his right arm, he's looking to get underneath my elbow and then turn back in towards me. Boom, see, there it is, straight underneath my arm. It creates back exposure. He gets a chance at doing the chair sit, but I'm hip to that. And I immediately turtle up and then roll away. And look at that, the elbow straight underneath the chin. I'll go back because he doesn't force the position here, but like I was saying before, every time we're chasing to get somebody's back, it's a fantastic idea if their chin's up and they're looking around because they don't want you on the back. If we can get our arm underneath their chin and then those 4 fingers over their collarbone on the far side, that way when we secure the back, we're already basically the choke's already done. We just need to lock it up and do the finish. If you get to somebody's back with hooks and a seatbelt grip, they know exactly what you're going to do. So at high levels, it can be very hard to finish a rear naked choke when you're not already underneath the chin. So basically, in a perfect world, your arm would be underneath the chin, locked up and ready to go. So then when you get the hooks in, or when you'll get and then your chest on their upper back, the choke's kind of a done deal. Anyway, let's move on. He doesn't really insist on it there. Back to our front headlock-ish kind of a position here. I really wanted to chase his back. He was having none of that. So I think that there is the time, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this bit of a scramble here with me and Martin, and some of my thoughts on like what I would consider harder and more technical roles where we actually learn a lot of jiu-jitsu. Because these roles that people talk about being really hard, they just aren't. There needs to be a high level of trust between you and your partner. If you can't get it, just have really, really long rolls, and that tends to create that thing, create the trust and create the knowledge of how the person rolls. That makes our rolls safe. And the camera cuts just up here anyway, but you can see that after this stops, I pretty much slap hands, bump knuckles, and I lie back on the mats and gasp for about 30 seconds, because that mightn't have looked, depending on your level of experience. But even though I've been training quite a lot, this was a very physically demanding role, like cardiovascularly and mentally. Like in that 6 minutes, the only thing that we were thinking of was, how do we get to a more dominant position? How do we open up for the next submission? So if you're wondering what should really good rolls look like when we don't have a competition on the horizon, but we still want to test out our cardio and our skill development with a trusted training partner, in my opinion, that's a very good example of how those things should go. So if you want to have a chat to me, drop us a DM, and I'll chuck a link to my Skool group as well below in the below sections, whatever those sections are. But yeah, you can jump in my Skool group. It's free, and I also have my courses and that in there as well. So I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for watching.